As teenagers, we're often at the mercy of hormones raging through our bodies, controlling our thoughts and actions. In our adolescent innocence, we lower our guard and ability to sense danger when we perceive a pleasant smile and an attractive form. We blindly follow visually pleasing strangers, entranced by what we mistake as charm, hoping for a moment of physical or mental intimacy, forgetting or oblivious to the fact that even the most non-threatening looking person can have a storm of violent rage brewing just beneath the surface. So desperate for attention, we ignore the camouflage signs of danger and place ourselves into the lion's mouth. Will you be able to see through the mirage before it's too late? Or will you fall victim to the violent madness of a beautiful psycho? Our story begins in the summer of 2001, on the way to Hume Lake Summer Camp in Sequoia National Forest. The compound overlooks the scenic lake, supports over 1,000 people, and is separated into high school and middle school age kids. Felix, an outgoing 15-year-old boy from Orange County, was attending the camp for his third summer. He was looking forward to seeing all of his friends and maybe meeting some new ones. The bus ride up was long and somewhat boring, but gave him an opportunity to catch up with his camp friends. They arrived at the compound and settled into their assigned cabins. Then it was time for dinner at the massive dining hall. Felix walked through the calming woods with his new cabin mates down to the hall as they joked and played. At last, the group of raucous boys made it to the huge building, where they were met with a long line of other campers. While they stood waiting to be let in to eat, Felix scanned the crowd, noticing a short brunette staring at him. When he focused on her face, he saw just how beautiful she was. Her piercing green eyes held his gaze as he felt his hands began to sweat and his stomach tingle. She smiled at him, and his knees almost gave out. Felix was enthralled and broke from the line and walked right to where the alluring siren stood. She was much shorter than him and almost had to look straight up to hold eye contact. They awkwardly spoke for a short time, blatantly flirting with each other. Her striking features and sarcastic dark humor only brought him deeper into the spell. Her name was Ashley, and for the rest of the week they spent every second of free time with each other, at least once a day sneaking off into the woods to clumsily make out. Felix had never felt like this before. He was truly happy. She was quite different from the other girls their age, very assertive and a bit of a dark side. She once pulled off his belt, put it around his neck, and then proceeded to refer to him as a dog, walking him around camp. Felix took this as her being goofy and played along. Another time she mentioned how she would like to whip him until he bled, then giggled. But Felix was sure she was joking and enjoyed that she was comfortable enough to make off-color comments to him. Subdued by the fog of adolescent infatuation, Felix and Ashley's bond grew tighter and tighter as the week went on, which made the last day of camp an excruciating one for them both. They exchanged information so they'd be able to stay in touch, as she lived in San Francisco and Felix lived in Southern California. Tears fell from her cheeks as they kissed goodbye, unsure if they would ever see each other again. The bus ride back felt much longer this time, as the young boy's heart was breaking. The day after Felix had arrived home, he received a letter in the mail from Ashley. She had written and mailed it while still at camp. Felix thought this was adorable and decided to write her back immediately. That night, while writing the letter, the home phone rang. It was Ashley. She was upset that Felix had not called her yet. Choking and wheezing, she asked Felix why he didn't want to talk to her. He then explained how he was writing her back right then, She apologized for overreacting, and Felix, being inexperienced, assumed that's how women acted and assured her she was fine. The next month consisted of almost nightly phone calls and at least 2 letters a week, each one from Ashley, becoming increasingly more sensual. After a month of hormonal frustration, they were finally able to plan a day together at Disneyland. The day was filled with cuddling and kissing, but Felix, at last, noticed something off about Ashley's demeanor. She made a lot of morose and crude jokes, which didn't bother him, but the majority were about her hurting him or someone else. She also started randomly pitching and hitting him during their stay at the park. Felix tried to chalk it up to her being overly excited to see him, but it began to bother him. At the end of the night, when it came time for goodbyes again, Ashley squeezed Felix's arms so tight her nails broke the skin. He was now beginning to wonder what was going on in her head. The trip to Disney seemed to act as some sort of catalyst for Ashley, as her letters stopped being as sensual and started getting into questionable territory for Felix. She would say how she wanted to show him her underwear drawer and the big knife that she had hidden in it. Young girl would write how she wanted to tie him up and tease him with the large blade. Felix was overwhelmed and out of his depth. He didn't know what to do or say to voice his discomfort. He was too afraid to tell anyone, as he didn't want her to get in trouble and was sure his family wouldn't understand. He still cared about her a great deal and didn't want to hurt her, so he wrote one more letter with the purpose of explaining his perturbation. He thought he was careful to get his point across, but her next letter would not only prove him wrong, but put a fear in him he would never forget. Ashley's reply gave the impression that she not only read his communication, but was slipping away from reality. Her message, though extremely long, was only about her sick and twisted fantasy. Felix read on in absolute horror and disgust, as it chronicled in excruciating detail how she wanted to tie him up and begin cutting into him with her sharp knife, listening to him scream. After slicing into him, she would then cut out his eyes and make love to him while he writhed in pain and terror. Finally, she would slit his throat before cutting open her own wrists, so they could be together for eternity. Felix was frozen in shock. He sat in his room staring at the letter for almost an hour, until coming to and processing the violent threat he had just read. She had gone into such detail with every aspect, even how his blood would taste. Felix knew she had thought about and planned it for some time. He grabbed all of her letters and quickly rushed to the fireplace in the living room. He threw them all in, sprayed in some lighter fluid, lit a match, and tossed it in. Felix watched the letters burn into ash, but still felt nauseous and worried. Now terrified of this tiny young girl, Felix began dodging all of her phone calls and throwing out her letters. A few weeks passed until the calls finally stopped. The day after she quit, Felix's friend Aaron from summer camp called him. Aaron was very upset and disturbed by something.
What the hell, dude? Why did you give that girl from camp my number?
He yelled through the phone. Wait, what are you talking about? Felix answered while his heartbeat accelerated.
That girl you were with at camp has been calling my house nonstop, all day. My mom is pissed.
A shock wave of alarm shot through Felix's body.
And when I finally gave in and talked to her, she flipped out, screaming and crying about how you were ruining her life or something. What did you do, man?
It took Felix a little while to answer, as he was frozen in frantic thought, finally stating, "I'm so sorry, man, but I didn't give her your number. I didn't even know she knew your name. I don't know what to do. She scares the crap out of me."
Dude, you're scared of that little girl. Whatever. Just make sure she doesn't call here again. I gotta go.
Felix stood still with the phone to his ear while his heart pounded against his chest. How did she get Aaron's number? And how much further was she willing to go? Felix spent the next few days on edge, waiting for another shocking alert, which came when Ashley's father called his home. First he spoke to Felix's mother, then he asked to speak to Felix. What he learned in the next few minutes changed everything. Ashley's father regaled Felix with the disturbing facts, while he sat in the living room with his parents staring at him in bewilderment of the situation. First, Ashley's father stated that she had attempted to end her own life a couple months before they sent her to camp by the recommendation of her psychiatrist. Then he told the boy how his daughter had secretly ceased her medication, which greatly affects her ability to process information. Felix was very distraught to hear that she had been suffering, but was still scared of what she was capable of doing. The father then asked Felix if he had anything to add, as he knew they had become very close, and she spent most of her time writing and calling him. Felix was reluctant at first, but got the impression her father just wanted to help her. So with his parents listening in shock, he told them how she had become alarmingly violent in her letters. He told the father about her secret knife and how she wanted to torture him with it. Felix could hear the man rifling through his daughter's room until finally gasping and whispering,
Where did she get this stuff?
Then questioning Felix.
Where did she get all of these knives, handcuffs, and stuff?
Felix explained how he had no idea, and then asked if Ashley was okay. The answer was not what he wanted.
I don't know. No one's seen her in days.
The young boy's jaw dropped, and eyes spread wide. He could feel a cold chill sliding up his spine.
If you hear from her, please call me. Thank you for helping.
Felix was once again left in frightful shock. Where was she? Would she try to get to him? Was she on her way? Or could she be there now hiding somewhere? He wondered why her father wouldn't start with the fact that she was missing. Felix felt sick to his stomach, as it would be overwhelming for anyone to compute those kinds of details, let alone a young teenage boy. He eventually came back to the present, hung up the phone, and realized there was going to be a long conversation with his parents, as this was the first they were learning about any of the twisted situation. After a lengthy and arduous discussion about why it's safer to be honest and open, Felix receded to his room, still extremely on edge. The next few days, Felix spent waiting for something horrible to happen. He did his best to hide his distress, but inside, he was a ball of anxiety and agitation. He could not stop thinking that she was going to appear with restraints and a weapon, ready to take him to her romantic kill room, to bleed him like a hunted animal. The nights were the hardest for him, with every slight noise sending a jolt of muscle-tensing panic through his body. Luckily for him, she never emerged, and Felix was able to move on, but he will always wonder what happened to the beautiful but terrifyingly troubled girl, and if she got the help that she so desperately needed. During our interview, Felix asked if he should have handled things differently. To this day, he feels that if maybe he hadn't panicked at the letter and tried to talk to her or told someone sooner, that things could have been better for her. But he knows alternatively, he could have been brutally assaulted, tormented, and slaughtered by her out of some kind of demented sexual fantasy, falsely construed as love. How often do we place ourselves into dangerous situations, unaware of the peril that we face? How many people in our lives have secret maniacal or murderous plans for us or the ones we love? Are we able to learn to recognize these unpredictable yet perilous individuals and get them help? Or must we simply wait for them to explode and hope that we don't burn when we're caught in the blast?
Subscribe to Black Letters for a new horror story every 13 days.